create that sort of market volatility. So if we are prudent, we require as an industry that brokers should perhaps consider profiling their individual borrowers, right? So that they can make good those losses. They may not have been large-scale disposals, right? Which would then stop so much volatility in the market. Because, say for instance, the world was well into a recession when our own stock market was at, say, 15,700 points. Western markets were well into recession, but our market obviously was consistently growing on account of the level of liquidity that was available, right? So, strategy not only with respect to their own organizations, but perhaps consider aspects such as data pooling, coming together, right, as an industry and assisting each other in preventing credit losses, in preventing, basically creating a much more stable market. An example of, say, the retail market would be that, say for instance, right now, currently, we don't have a practice of going to retail borrowers provided he is performing. So if I am a bank, right, and I have issued a credit card to a customer, ABC Bank, right, and I had taken a credit card out in the year 2003, right, that's the only data set I would have to risk profile that particular customer, right. So there is as such no centralized data warehouse available for that bank to basically update the information that they had collected, which they considered pertinent to its credit risk profile, right, for the past 7 years. So if the industry collaborates, right, so if I go to bank XYZ now, I've gotten married in the meantime, I have had children, I've gotten promoted, etc., my age has increased. If bank ABC also has access to that information of bank XYZ, right, it would place it in a much better position to basically model its risk and perhaps even prevent credit risks in the retail portfolio from arising. Obviously, we have seen previously that we didn't even have a suitable centralized credit bureau, which came then in the form of ECIB. But before that, obviously, there were issues and it led to losses because we didn't know the amount of gearing a customer had taken on board. Right now, since that is there, banks have become much more conservative in lending to a retail customer. We don't need to stop there as an industry. We need to move forward, share other data elements as well, perhaps, so as to prevent credit losses from arising on account of lack of data, which may otherwise have been prevented had the bank had access to that. Okay. So one, as I already stated, aligning strategy to ICAAP, etc. Right. Another element would be counterparty risk, risk management models, pro-cyclicality. Now, in counterparty risk, obviously, derivative trading is not very common. But what my general observation has been that, apart from certain very specialized people within the industry, knowledge of basically acquiring basically product-specific knowledge which is necessary to make a decision in taking up a product like an interest rate swap or a cross-currency swap is not readily forthcoming. So at times, obviously, banks may need to emphasize on educating their counterparties as well, right, as to whether they have a natural hedge available against it. So for example, if I've got my regular imports in US dollars, I'm an exporter, so I've got dollars coming in from my revenue side, right? While at the same time, in that case, if I have a short position in my cross-currency swap, then probably there will be an offsetting impact. Obviously, I hope I haven't gotten too technical regarding this. Another aspect, obviously, is capital optimization. As I had stated earlier, banks would need to focus going forward on maximizing the return based on the additional capital requirements. Obviously, equity holders will place a greater premium on the management of a bank, which basically provides them with the highest return on equity for the level of risk taken in the long term. And then banks would need to focus on liquidity risk, data, systems and approaches. Right, so that's just about it. I guess I have finished about a good 13 minutes earlier than essentially and then initially planned. These are our contact names. Mr. Akil Merchant, who is the head of advisory, his name and his email address is listed in the presentation, and the handouts, which I'm sure you would be having, and my contact number as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Zulfikar. It was indeed a very detailed and informative presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is now open for question and answer session. You may ask, please feel free to ask any question you may have. Can you please arrange the mics, please? Okay, to start with, with your permission, I would like to ask a question from our learned speaker. There was a criticism about Basel II that it relies too much on credit ratings and on internal modeling of the banks as well. So does Basel III talk something about that? Is a bit different on these aspects, or is it like the same as Basel II was?
Essentially went with on the upper portion of, thank you, dealt with the upper portion of a balance sheet. And I think, yes, within the local scenario, I would agree that perhaps, adding basically a risk exposure vis-a-vis the external ratings, it has not produced the desired effects. Because as such, most of the exposures in the corporate sector, on the corporate side, are currently actually unrated. I would not be too harsh in stating actually in substance over form, we are on Basel I. Because under Basel I, we used to have an exposure risk weighting of 100% on most of our corporate portfolio, right? Mm-hmm. That hasn't really changed in Basel II. Mm-hmm. The only thing Basel II, the only thing new Basel II has brought around with respect to the local industry is the additional operational risk charge. Because previously under the 1996 rules, the market risk charge was always there as well, more or less. Mm-hmm. So apart from that, I think the State Bank has in recent times encouraged banks to move gradually towards the advanced approaches, in the sense that they have issued a rating circular, an internal rating circular which they want banks to comply on a mandatory basis, right? So they want banks to basically start rating customers basically ability and willingness to pay, which is called an obligor rating. Then they also want basically banks to have a facility-based rating based on the collateral itself. So in the long run, one would see, inshallah, the commercial banking sector moving towards increased sophistication in terms of their risk management practices. In fact, most of the larger organizations that I can recollect have invested substantially in moving towards risk sophistication. So there is a lot of emphasis there, yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you mentioned about the trends in deposits, that retail deposits would be preferred or would be more desirable for banks. You mentioned that retail deposits would be more desirable for banks.
Right.
Can you elaborate what's the reason for that?
See, the reason is that, okay, now as I had stated earlier, that the liquidity aspect of Basel III requires banks to have two ratios in place, to comply with two ratios on a mandatory basis. One is the liquidity coverage ratio, right? Liquidity coverage ratio requires that you need to have liquid